Questions Committee, Mr. Jim Webb, Mr. Shane Green, and Ms. Pat McNulty. They've done an incredible job. They've even typed the questions so I don't have to read anybody's handwriting. All right, the next question comes from the political category. We'll begin with number 10, Mr. Day. If elected to Congress, what federal organizations, institutions, or departments will you advocate eliminating?
I have deep conversations about this. See, we have the Constitution right here, and we have actually where we at, with all the regulations and everything. It's easy for us to go in there with a knife and cut, and we lose jobs. We have to have a feasible plan to roll back regulation and roll back these things. Because, you go in somewhere just trying to cut something, you're going to disrupt things also. The key is planning where we're trying to go to. I do not believe in the EPA and all these very different things that should be, for one thing, they're not regulated. They're not actually really doing what they should be doing. Medicare and all these different things, they are actually not really functioning. You have more fraud than accountability. You have more tying up resources than actually really solving problems. So that's where I'm at with it. And kind of them are trick questions. You can't really bite on all that. Till then, y'all.
John Gay. I really like that question because we've got to cut somewhere. We cannot continue to run up the national credit card $4 billion a day. There are things, like I said, that Washington does need to be involved in, and a lot that they don't need to be involved in. One is the Department of Education. I have seen what they do to schools. They have ruined education. Does anybody remember going to school back like in the 1970s or before? It was a better education, and now it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And I finally had to pull my son out of school, a public school, and put him in a private school because the public education was just so pathetic. All right, it becomes more indoctrination and more regulations or unfunded mandates that they want these schools involved in. Department of Energy needs to go. It was founded under Jimmy Carter to lessen our dependence on foreign oil. We were importing about a third of our oil. Now we're importing about 72% of the oil. Now, one thing that I like about what the state of Texas does is every 12 years, every department is sunsetted. And they have to come in and answer a couple of questions. Are you still producing something that the people need? And do we still need you or want you? The IRS, I would like to eliminate. I would like to repeal the 16th Amendment. You'll see one of my items is the fair tax. Now, how's that different from the flat tax? That's very important. With the flat tax, and even the 999, I loved Herman Cain, the problem with the flat tax is you keep the IRS. We don't need the IRS. Everywhere you go to buy something, you pay the state sales tax. You could also pay the federal tax, and then you're done with it. There's no filing. There's no saving up to pay your taxes at the end of the year. Yes, it hurts a little bit when you buy it right then, but it's only on new goods and services. So people that want to recycle, guess what? The thrift stores are really going to be doing a lot more business. If you own your home and you lived in it, and you sell it, there's no tax then. Thank you.
I think he was looking at my notes. I would also eliminate the Department of Education only because it's a replicated program. We have it here in the state. I'm a constitutional guy. I believe in the 10th Amendment. And the 10th Amendment gives the rights to the people and to the state. Let's bring it back to the states. So the Department of Education goes. I also agree with the Department of Energy. I think the people who create jobs and who expend their capital and build business can do this better than the Department of Energy up in Washington. That needs to go. The third one is the EPA. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm going to get rid of the EPA because it's not going to go away. So let's be real. But what we can do is Congress has the purse strings. What they do is we cut their budget dramatically. And it eliminates a lot of the things that they can do, how far they can reach. So that's what I would do. We're not going to get rid of the EPA. Now let me tell you a bigger problem that is what they do right now. It's called baseline budgeting. In baseline budgeting, they take all these programs that are being funded by us, and they just add 7.5% at the end of the fiscal period for the next fiscal period. So if you're spending $100 million on a budget, the next budget has $107.5 million on that budget. What I said is go to zero-based budgeting. Every program gets sunshine put on it, and they have to justify each program before it's accepted, before it's funded. If we do that, we can actually take care of the budget crisis that we have. I believe this is a systematic way of doing this, but it's going to require a lot of conservatives in the House of Congress to get this done. Congress does have that right, and we can do it, but we have to have the fortitude and the guts to go ahead and do it. I'm going to do it. Thank you.
Harper, and I have to agree that number one on my agenda would be elimination of the Department of Education. Number two would be the baseline budgeting. Those have already been discussed. I'm in total agreement. Also, Department of Energy, EPA, HUD, Health and Human Services, Homeland Security. I would look at all of them. And it's not going to be easy. We probably will not be able to eliminate these departments completely. We can control the budgets, but we can also, these departments are comprised of individual agencies. We can go in, we can look at these agencies, we might be able to eliminate individual agencies. But we need to take a look at all of government, and we need to take an axe to it.
Thank you, Felicia Harris. I'll answer this question in the simple way that any department or agency that is not constitutional, and there are many of them, and not only in its fundamental principle purpose, but in its scope as well. We've heard about several of them. Obviously, Department of Education is one, top of my list as well, also the Department of Energy. Let's face it, the federal government, the reason for the 10th Amendment was to limit the reach of the federal government into the states and into their local issues. So any area where the federal government, such as the EPA trying to regulate the local water and things in Texas, is beyond its limits. We have a TCEQ for that. And in terms of experience with these sorts of things, in terms of being able to find the proper scope, I've spent the last 13 years of my life working with employers and employees who are engaged in the industries that are under attack, the energy industry, the petrochemical industry. It's easy for me to go and look at these statutes and to talk to these businesses and talk about the things that matter to them and to understand where the government is overreached. So I would advocate that any agency, and there's many of them, the list is long, that does not stand under the Constitution of the United States of America should be repealed. And obviously we can't do it overnight. We'll have to do it through a process, but I would work to try to pull back on the funding. I think that's the appropriate approach, the only approach that's available in Congress, because all revenue bills start in the House. You start there, and then you start looking back over time. Thank you, Felicia Harris.
Mark Mansius. I'm a strong believer in the 10th Amendment as well. And anything that we're doing that doesn't belong there ought to be removed. I could give you a long list. But I also wonder if we ought not to deal with the judge issues. The federal courts are created by the Congress. And I've wondered in my life whether or not we should start reining in some of their places by reducing the number of places that they are, so that there are less places people can go to for federal issues. The court systems of the United States, the federal courts, have had a history in recent years of being a major reason for this encroachment into what we do in our lives. And I wonder if we shouldn't go ahead and make some changes there as well. Thank you.